1080 The Team presents the ESPN1080.com Insiders Show. As today, it's Eric Lopez here alongside Magic and NBA Insider Andrew Melnick and Rays Insider Jason Collette. We got a lot to get to today on this Sunday morning edition. A weird week to say the least. We got two new managers in the NL East who've won World Series titles and are combined 200 years old. Well, at least that's one manager's age. We kid. We're talking, we got a fighter fired before a main event was supposed to be scheduled. We got rumors all around the board in the NBA. We'll also recap the NBA draft, that and much more. And gentlemen, nice to have you back together again. You guys, Jason was off last week, taking care of Father Day duties, and as a result, two managers get fired. So congrats. Or one resigns. Well, both quit, actually. Not even fired. They both quit. So, not bad.
Yeah, it's crazy. Very crazy week. I didn't know if I was going to make it here, despite Delta and Hilton's best efforts to make my travel week quite miserable. I did make it back in studio, so it's nice to be with you guys again. Absolutely.
And Andrew, of course, NBA draft week, which of course means plenty of NBA rumors, Magic involved in all these possibility of trades. And they did make a trade.
Yeah, but not a big trade, of course. They did wind up with a projected first-round pick and only gave up 2 future seconds in Justin Harper from Richmond, so not a bad deal there for them. But, yeah, this week is more about people like me debunking ridiculous rumors.
Well, let's get into that. Let's get into that right now. That's let's start with the Magic week, the week that was. I believe it was the eve of the draft, a Wednesday, even as early as Wednesday. You started hearing rumors about Jameer Nelson going to Portland for Andre Miller. You heard about Josh Smith coming here. You've heard about Andre Iguodala maybe coming here. Even last night, as late as last night, you had a bogus trade rumor in Twitter where someone anonymously just made up, there's going to be a Dwight Howard for Andrew Bynum and Lamar Odom. It'll be announced on Saturday night. And, of course, that was absolutely ridiculous as Dwight Howard was hanging out with politicians. What do we make of all these rumors? How much of this was real? How much of this was fake? Realistic? I mean, what do we make of all this?
Well, nothing happened.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much all fake. Some of the rumors, I'm sure they had talks, and I'm sure when you're talking about a backup point guard that's making $17, $18 million in Gilbert Arenas, and a guy who Dwight Howard himself has even said they need to let him play a little more to his style, his game, I think it would make sense in a way to trade Jameer Nelson, although he's your second best player, if you can find another starting quality player to put in that lineup somewhere else at the 2, the 3, maybe even the 4. But for the most part, it was just a lot of nothing like usual.
But do you feel that the Magic were shopping Jameer Nelson?
Yes, I think so.
How do you handle that now? I mean, is that something, do you think they'll do that whenever that lockout ends? Will they continue to shop him? I mean, what's the odds that Jameer Nelson will be on the Magic roster whenever the first Magic game of next season, whenever that is, takes place?
I think the odds are still pretty good. I mean, some of these places, they want to ship him. They love Andre Iguodala, but they have a point guard of the future, Drew Holiday, a really good point guard of the future, actually. And there's just some other teams where it didn't make a lot of sense. I mean, that Portland rumor is obviously gone since they traded for Raymond Felton, who in my eyes is an inferior player, but that's another story.
Wait, which one do you think is the better point guard there?
Jameer Nelson.
Yeah.
And you know, things like that. A couple of those trades aren't even open anymore. So I think he'll still be on the roster when opening day rolls around.
What are these two picks for the Magic? Harper, obviously you mentioned they traded up for him. Let's first start with him. What does he bring? What do the Magic hope he brings?
Well, what he is, you know, another Rashard Lewis, Ryan Anderson type guy that's just a big man that can shoot the 3. 6'9". He needs to put on some weight. He was talking about maybe playing small forward. I don't think he's got the athleticism for that, so I think he needs to put on some weight, play the 4, and just be that stretch 4 that the Magic have played with since Dan Van Gundy got here. DeAndre Liggins is a guy who, if you've seen him play, he's not going to score you points, but he's a guy who's really long, potentially could be a very good defender.
Mm-hmm.
Which do both have to make the roster? Do one of them make the roster? What's the outlook?
Harper will certainly make the roster. I think Liggins has a pretty good shot, you know, especially if they can't bring Jason Richardson back.
Obviously, that is the Magic situation. Otis Smith was on with Tuck and O'Neill this past Friday, which, by the way, yours truly and Andrew Melnick will be on Tuck and O'Neill this week. More on that later on the show. But he had a chance to speak, and they talked about, obviously, some of what's going on with the Magic. He says this team, he likes this team. He's not going to overreact like a lot of people. He thinks they just underachieved, basically, not putting words in his mouth. But basically, the thinking was that came out of that was, this is pretty much going to be the team going into next year, and with another year together, they'll be a lot better and exceed. They'll have the expectations they expect on themselves. Is he just playing toy? Is he just playing coy there, or do you believe this will be the exact roster we'll have next year?
I think it's going to be not for lack of trying to change it, though, just because it's going to be so difficult to change it. And if you remember, this is exactly what he said last year. He didn't want to make any rash decisions, didn't want to make a big move based on a slump. Then they had a West Coast road trip, had a big slump at the end of the calendar year, and made 2 huge trades. Rash decisions. almost looked like getting Gilbert Arenas, getting Turkoglu back, and things like that. So he said the same kind of things last year. They wanted to bring back most of the same team, a team that was already very good, and then wound up making a bunch of deals. And you know the way Otis operates, he usually does the opposite of what you think.
I love that. He also said that Dwight, they asked him about, Jerry and Mike asked him about Dwight Howard wanting input on decisions, and Otis kind of said, look, players play, coaches coach, general managers manage. Is that a wise decision? Is that a wise thing to say when your franchises could walk out after next year to say, yeah, we don't really want your input, basically?
It's probably wise to say on local radio shows, but okay. I don't think for a second that's what's happening.
You think it's all just political there, just PR, good PR, and then behind the scenes, all right, Dwight, what do you want? I
don't know if it's necessarily like that, but if they're not listening to him at all, then they've already, they're in some trouble.
That's Andrew Melnick, or your Magic NBA Insider. Reminder, we'll get in more into NBA draft in our next segment. Jason, let's toss it to you now. Let's focus on the Rays on the field, because later in the show we got plenty to talk about off the field. But the Rays quietly has had a nice, very good week. They've taken the first 2 games from Houston. Mm-hmm. You saw them up in Milwaukee. They took 2 out of 3 against a very good Milwaukee Brewers team. A very successful week so far for the Rays on this road trip.
Yeah, I mean, if we jump back 20 games, the Rays are 14-6 in their last 20. They dropped 2 or 3 in the Boston series. They've dropped 1 game here or there, but go to Milwaukee was no easy task. That team was playing .735 baseball at home, 25-9 before the Rays got there, best in the league by far. And the Rays took 2 of 3 rather easily up there. And now with Houston, it's rather a nice gift on the schedule. Houston's a very, very bad baseball team. There's no way if the Rays now they took 2 or 3, this is a minimum what they had to do. They need to sweep this series because Houston. Watching the game over the last 2 nights, I think I was watching like a tryout for Major League 4. I didn't know who these guys were. They had 3 pitchers with the last name Rodriguez, and Wandy was the only one I knew. They had 2 other guys I'd never heard of before.
Come on, Hunter Pence.
Well, I'm talking about pitching. Hunter Pence is the only guy worth watching on that team because the rest, Carlos Lee, El Caballo needs to be taken to the glue factory. That guy's awful. But it is the Astros are just bad. And that's a top down. That's Drayton McClain being too involved. That's Ed Wade being too inept and being a yes man. They need a real the owner, Jim Crane's going to come in there. They need to find themselves a real GM that's going to run that team as it should be. It's an embarrassment. Those are my 2 favorite teams. I grew up in Houston, so the Astros are my childhood team. I'm here in Florida. The Rays are my team. So I get very, upset when I see my childhood team get run into the ground.
I sense that. Jeff Niemann goes today. Give me your thoughts. He came back Monday, pitched pretty well against Milwaukee, got the win. He pitches today. Can he return to that form about a year ago around this time when people thought he was arguably the second best pitcher in that staff and a borderline all-star, and then he got injured. It was never the same. What do you expect from Jeff Niemann?
Last Monday he caught a huge break when Ryan Braun was pulled from the lineup just before the game with a viral infection. And that really was key in that game because Mark Kotsay was playing. Mark Kotsay is about what you and I would be at the plate these days, and he came up twice, once with the bases loaded, once with 2 men on, and left all those guys stranded. Ryan Braun would not have done that. So Niemann caught a break because without Ryan Braun in that lineup, if you're a right-handed pitcher, the only guy you really have to fear is Prince Fielder. After that, the rest of that lineup can be handled. Niemann did a very good job. His curveball looked as good as I've seen it look in quite some time. And he kept it down, did not give up the long ball. Those are things that always plague him. So this Houston lineup is another soft landing for him. It helped him build up some confidence because we talked when I was back, when last time I was here in studio 2 weeks ago, the Rays have that critical 11-game stretch right around the All-Star break. They play the Yankees 8 times. Right around the All-Star break, and the Red Sox 3. That's going to make or break their season. You saw Buster Olney yesterday tweet about the Rays are putting signals out that their market's open. Are they buying? Are they selling? That's going to be determined in that 11-game stretch where they're playing their 2 heated rivals.
To hit on one of your points, I hope they don't make Major League 4.
Major League One was so awesome. 2 and 3 not so good. But you look at the Astros. Last night the Astros had a pitcher in there, Fernando Abad. His last name is actually Abad, which pretty much describes their roster.
And this is watching the 2 games. There was nobody at the ballpark at Minute Maid there, from what I saw. It was not a.
Do you blame them?
Well, I'm just saying. Maybe I was just wondering if Steve Berthuime was watching. Maybe they should write something about maybe the Astros.
You want to talk about nobody at a ballpark? You should have seen some of the pictures from Dodger Stadium yesterday. Somebody tweeted one 15 minutes before the game, and it looked like a batting practice shot. Absolutely. There was just nobody there. But yeah, Houston, it's a great stadium. I love that stadium. If they could bring that to the Tampa Bay area, sign me up. It's a great place to watch a game. Unfortunately, it's not a great product on the field.
No, I've been to Minute Maid. It's beautiful. Let's look a week ahead here. They got a big homestand. Cincinnati and St. Louis come to town. Mm-hmm. That Cardinal series was looking big. Last week, of course, Albert Pujols is out. We'll be out for that series.
Nice break.
Nice break. We'll have somebody from St. Louis next week on the show to talk more about it. But the Reds, Joey Votto, talented team. I'll be there Wednesday. I'm looking forward. What do we expect from the Rays this week at home?
That's going to be a tough series. Joey Votto's playing some unreal baseball right now. Jay Bruce was coming off of playing some unreal baseball. Drew Stubbs is one of 3 guys in baseball that has at least 10 home runs and at least 20 stolen bases. So there's another athlete on the team. And the good news for the Rays is the 3 best guys are going in the series. Price, Hellickson, and Shields are all going to pitch in this series with the Reds. So it's going to be a very competitive series. And the Reds are just playing really good baseball. But you saw how when the Red Sox came to town, the Rays threw up their 3 best arms and held a red-hot Red Sox offense to 7 runs in 3 games. Unfortunately, the Rays only scored 6. The Rays are still having trouble scoring runs at home, and that's what's hurt them. They go on the road, hit like gangbusters. They come home, and they just don't hit. So they're going to have to hit in this series, take advantage. I think Johnny Cueto is going to pitch in this series against the Rays, and Johnny Cueto has been pitching some unbelievable baseball now that he's got this new delivery that's a mix between Felix Hernandez and Hideo Nomo's delivery. But you saw him absolutely shut down a Yankees offense the other night.
Last question before we go to break. Will we see Desmond Jennings in this homestand? His and speculation is, of course, all the service time. He's now eligible. If he bring him up now this week, it won't. They'll still be able to keep him. An extra year, which was their goal. Will they be up this week?
Yeah, we did some. D-Rays Bay is one of the places that we do writing, and some colleagues put together a service time clock looking at what he did last year against this year, because you've already seen guys like Mike Moustakas, Eric Hosmer, Anthony Rizzo. Those guys called up around the league, but Desmond Jennings played last year, so you had to factor in that. And by our calculations, after today, he's eligible to be called up and would not fall into that Super 2. If you don't know what Super 2 is, what the league does is takes the top 17% of the people called up, and that gives them a year earlier into arbitration. So that kind of move could cost a team anywhere, $2 million a year early over the span of a contract, as much as $13 million over the time you control a player. So it behooves the Rays to not call Desmond Jennings up before that Super 2 floating deadline to control future cost.
Well, that'll be interesting. That's Jason Collette, your Rays and MLB insider. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll recap the NBA draft this Thursday. Who were the winners and the losers? Hey, that Vesely kid, he's already a winner. We'll tell you why. And then later on the show, we'll talk Rays are winning, and yet ESPN goes after them. We'll talk about that and much more. You're listening to ESPN1080.com Insider Show here on ESPN 1080, The Team.
This is where great moments happen.
This could be for a national championship. It's up. Missed it to the right. Murray hit it. Going up. He missed it to the right. Snap is down. Bunyan's kick is on the way. And it's no good. It's one right. It's one right. The Canes win. The Canes beat Florida State.
ESPN 1080, The Team.
Bad things sometimes happen to good people. Did something happen in your life and now you're just having a really hard time with your bills? You're trying your best, but you just can't get your debts under control. Call American Financial Solutions. We can help you get back on track and on with your life. This is not a loan, so homeownership is not required. We offer professional counseling and a customized plan to bring your debts back under control and help you get them paid off. Don't lose any more sleep over your credit card, medical, or collection debts. If you're ready to take control of your debts and your money, call American Financial Solutions right now. 800-990-0352. 800-990-0352. Call right now for a free debt analysis. 800-990-0352. 800-990-0352.
I owed the IRS more than $10,000. I was getting certified letters and notices. Opening my mail was terrifying.
Just a few minutes on the phone with Tax Network USA and you can stop the IRS attacks, stop the wage garnishments, stop the harassing phone calls, stop the fear, and stop the worry. Just 5 minutes on the phone can put you back on top.
If you owe the IRS back taxes, call Tax Network USA like I did and get protected.
Tax Network USA is accredited by the Better Business Bureau, and they have a full team of CPAs, tax attorneys, and professionals in-house. Just a few minutes on the phone, and they can immediately step between you and the IRS. If you owe the IRS more than $10,000, call one of the very few safe companies accredited by the Better Business Bureau. 1-800-235-7736. Stop the garnishments. Stop the liens. Stop the IRS from ruining your life. Call now. 800-235-7736. 800-235-7736.
Here's another question from the Geico Savings Mailbag.
Susan from Miami asks, do you believe virtue is its own reward?
Ah, yes, indeed I do. But I also think cash is a pretty nice reward. And cash is exactly what you could save when you switch to Geico.
Right.
Yeah, and Geico also offers rewards in the form of good driver discounts, multi-car discounts, and defensive driver discounts.
So maybe discounts are their own rewards.
Hard to argue with that.
For a free rate quote, visit geico.com to see how much you could save. Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
It's not just a radio station, it's a multimedia experience. Orlando's ESPN 1080. ESPN 1080. The team. And ESPN1080.com.
With the first pick in the 2011 NBA Draft, the Cleveland Cavaliers select Kyrie Irving from Duke University.
And we welcome you back here to ESPN1080.com Insiders Show here on the ESPN 1080 The Team. Eric Lopez here, your UCF and Magic Insider, alongside Andrew Melnick, your Magic and NBA Insider, and Jason Collette, your Rays and MLB Insider. You just heard Commissioner David Stern, the best commissioner to pronounce names, had a great day announcing different names and foreign names in the draft, announcing Kyrie Irving as the number one pick of the Cleveland Cavaliers in the highest rated NBA draft, by the way, in television since 96, 97.
That's pretty good numbers there. Kyrie Irving, obviously, no surprise. I think from the second the Washington Wizards did not win the lottery, we knew he was going to be the number one pick.
Yeah, pretty easily. So one of the main reasons why this is a big draw, obviously, a man who was there to cover it, Andrew, our good friend from HoopsWorld.com, Alex Kennedy, now is joining us to break down the NBA draft. Alex, welcome.
Thanks, guys. I'm heading over to the ESPN 1040 studio now, so I'm double dipping this morning.
Something Jason can relate to. Jason knows all about that. His whole
home
there.
Sure, yeah.
Alex, give me your thoughts on the draft overall. What jumped out to you now that you've had a few days to think about it after a lot of different languages to certainly learn, but your thoughts on the draft?
You know, I was pretty prepared going in, and then I think everyone kind of got mixed up, and everyone's draft board got thrown out the window the second that the three-way deal between the Kings, Bobcats, and Bucks went down a couple hours beforehand. It changed the whole draft order, and then we saw some guys slip that we didn't expect to see. Obviously, Brandon Knight goes to Detroit, number 8, which is way lower than anyone thought. You have the Jimmer, Kemba mania. They go back-to-back. And then, I mean, really, all of the first round, the late first round, I'm not sure anyone had it projected like that. So, you know, it was an interesting draft. Like you said, I mean, the ratings were good, so that's always an indicator that there was a lot of interest there. There weren't as many players in this draft that are probably going to go on to be impact players or all-stars or great players, but there were a lot of role guys and some contributors. So it's going to be interesting to see how this class pans out.
You mentioned that three-way trade. You know, I get it for a couple of teams. I like it for the Bucks, shedding Salmons and Maggette. You got to like it for Charlotte, getting an additional pick. For the Sacramento Kings, I just don't get it. I mean, they take on John Salmons, who's possibly got $30 million left on his deal, and they trade down to do so. What were they thinking?
You know, I think it was really just about getting Jimmer Fredette. At number 7, they felt like that would have been a reach. They liked John Salmons a lot. They thought he can come in and be a contributor. And really, I mean, the thing about Jimmer Fredette there is the ownership and management were actually split on whether or not they should bring Jimmer in. Ownership wanted him. Obviously, with their situation, they have to sell tickets, they have to generate interest, they have to have a big-name guy come in and really be someone they can sell around. And I don't know if you guys have already seen this, but their website is all Jimmer Fredette out today, and they've been kind of putting him everywhere. I mean, he's been at malls over there. He's been really making a ton of appearances already. So they're really trying to make some money off of him already. But management, they did not want Jimmer. I mean, they put together a whole video of his game film and showed why his transition to the NBA would be difficult. And really, there was a lot of internal. They were split there internally. So by moving down, they felt like they could justify Jimmer for that pick better. So they were able to get their guy at number 10. And then also, like you said, I mean, they get a guy like John Salmon, too. While his contract is ugly, he's a veteran who can come in right away, be a scorer, and really help that team. But, you know, I agree. I feel like they got the worst end of that deal out of all three teams. Like you said, the Bobcats got a guy like Corey Maggette who can step right in, be a veteran on that team. He can score, go back to North Carolina where a lot of people like him. The Milwaukee gets a great leader in Steven Jackson, and I think they really won that trade. So, you know, I think it works for those two teams. Sacramento, if Jimmer is half of what the hype is, then maybe they'll be a little bit better off in that trade. But as of today, it does seem like they're one of the losers.
We're being joined by Alex Kennedy of HoopsWorld.com and, of course, ESPN 1040 as well. You know, Alex, who did you like? What was your favorite? Who do you think had the best draft, and who had the worst draft in your opinion?
You know, you gotta like what Cleveland did. I mean, anytime you have the first and fourth pick, it's obviously pretty easy to have a good draft. But with Kyrie Irving and then Tristan Thompson, who's a surprise pick for a lot of people, I think they made the right move. They brought in two guys who are both freshmen coming out of college. They already have a real good relationship. I mean, they're close friends, so that helps too. They're gonna be able to go on through this process side by side, rather than having a foreigner who maybe Kyrie wouldn't have been able to have been as close with. Alongside him. So I think they made the right decision there. And then also I think the Washington Wizards, I mean, they haven't gotten a lot of love for their draft, but they brought a guy in, Jan Vesely, with the number 5 pick, and a lot of people agree he's the most athletic player in this class. He's been compared to Andre Iguodala, which is strange because, I mean, usually we compare foreigners to foreigners and things like that. But, I mean, he's a great dunker. He's real athletic. He can get out in transition, so that's a great guy to pair up with John Wall. And then at 18, they grabbed Chris Singleton, who no one expected to be on the board. A lot of people say he's the best defender in this class. So I think Washington did a good job. As far as who did a bad job, you know, I like the Corey Maggette acquisition for Charlotte, but as far as their draft picks, I mean, the joke in the media room was that Michael Jordan's going to find some way to screw this up and draft Kemba Walker at number 9. And sure enough, when they go on the clock, they draft Kemba Walker. So I think Bismack Biyombo, he's a guy who's really raw. They take him in number 7. He's a great shot blocker, good rebounder, but, I mean, the way I look at it, he had a workout at Eurocamp in Treviso a couple weeks ago. He did a 1-on-0 workout, and the general consensus was that he lost that workout because, I mean, he was missing layups. He's real raw around the basket, no offensive game to speak of. And then, I mean, Kemba, when you already have DJ Augustin, I think that's a little bit redundant. So I think they should have went Kawhi Leonard there. Kawhi Leonard's camp thought he was going to the Bobcats. So, you know, I don't like those pickups, but you know, I don't think anyone really lost this draft. It's not like anyone had a ridiculous Ronaldo Balkman kind of pick, but I think Charlotte could do a little better.
Now, with you know, local product Chandler Parsons got taken by the Rockets. What do you think his chances are there, and where he was taken in the draft? What were your thoughts there?
You know, Houston likes him a lot. We actually saw Chandler Parsons out in L.A. throughout the whole draft process, and he's a guy. He did have a little bit of trouble putting on weight because I mean, he's not a real big guy. He's tall, obviously. But, you know, he's a good leader. I feel like he's the kind of guy who can come in and step in right away. I mean, he has obviously a lot of experience at Florida, and he's one of the guys that a lot of teams projected as being an instant contributor. So he could step right in and contribute a little bit. His whole thing is I'm not sure what position he's going to play. I mean, is he a small forward? Is he a power forward? His game's kind of tough to see. But, you know, I think Houston looked at the numbers. They're a team that relies a lot on advanced analytics, and they felt like he could step in and be a contributor. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, I like Chandler. I feel like he's a good leader. He's a good guy. He's a good locker room guy, too. I mean, he's real funny, a gel guy. But where he plays is going to be tough to kind of assess his game and really see what kind of impact he can have.
When you were talking about winners, you clearly forgot to mention the Utah Jazz, who got by far the biggest character in the draft with Nez Kanter. He said, you know, he's a mix of the power of Dwight Howard, the finesse of Pau Gasol, and the shot of Dirk Nowitzki. What is the word on him? I know it came out, some Kentucky scouts said he was easily the best Kentucky player in this draft. And, I mean, you're talking about a draft that had Brandon Knight go 8, which is lower than anyone thought. What is the word on him? How good can this guy be?
There's only 100 minutes of game film on him that's kind of floating out there. So maybe he is the next Dwight Howard, Dirk Nowitzki, all of those things combined. But, I think that just goes to show you, in this draft, there were so many guys that either didn't have a ton of potential or we had seen them for most of their college careers and they weren't really anything special. So for a guy like Enes Kanter to go as high as he did, number 3, it kind of shows that teams are just looking for anything in this draft and some kind of form potential. He was the big unknown, so a lot of teams took a chance on him. There were teams willing to move up to grab him. We heard teams calling the Minnesota Timberwolves, like the Atlanta Hawks, for example. They wanted to move up and trade possibly Josh Smith to grab him. So, he's a guy he's interesting. I think he has the body. He didn't exactly do well in workouts. A lot of people said he was really average. But, he's still young. He had a year off of basketball, which is always tough to come back in and kind of get through the workout process after not playing for so long. So he may have been a little bit rusty. But I think he's going to be good in Utah. I think he makes a lot of sense there. I didn't agree with the Brandon Knight selection if they were going to go in that direction. I felt like Enes Kanter would be better. He already has Derek Favors there, so they can form a little bit of a Twin Towers. And then with Devin Harris, he's going to make his job a lot easier. So I like the pick, and it's going to be interesting to see how he pans out.
Was there a trade that did not happen that came close to happening that would have made an impact in this trade that you heard about, or was it pretty much quiet up into the draft?
There were 2 trades that almost went down but didn't. The first one was between the Sixers and the Lakers, and there was a lot of talk around Andre Iguodala for Lamar Odom, and a lot of people said that it didn't make sense for the Lakers and this and that, but actually the Lakers had already agreed to it, and then Philadelphia backed out because they said that Lamar Odom, they didn't think he'd be happy in Philadelphia. Anyone who's watched Lamar Odom play knows that when he's not motivated and when he's unhappy, he's nowhere near the same player. So Philadelphia was scared they were trading their star player and their franchise guy for someone who wouldn't have been thrilled to be there and wouldn't really be working hard. So that trade kind of fell apart when the Sixers reconsidered and kind of thought what Odom would do in Philadelphia. And another one, which was real close to going down, was between Portland and San Antonio. Tony Parker, the number 29 pick, would have went to Portland for Andre Miller, Nicholas Batum, and the 21 pick. But that fell apart because San Antonio, at the last minute, told the Blazers they wanted them to include Richard Jefferson in the deal. And Portland obviously walked away because Richard Jefferson's contract is just huge. So they would have had to throw in a Gerald Wallace or Marcus Camby type player, and that wasn't going to happen. So those 2 trades almost went down, and I think the second one would have been really interesting because obviously Andre Miller is a guy who gets traded to Denver the next day, and that would have changed everything because then you have San Antonio drafting a little bit higher, and maybe they don't trade for Kawhi Leonard, number 15. It's just a domino effect at that point, and I think it would have been a very different day had one of those trades went down.
Yeah, Andre Miller, a hot commodity because his contract's completely non-guaranteed. You can get out of it before the season starts and not have to pay him at all. Before we let you go, you got to touch on what the Magic did. Traded 2 future first-round picks, went up to the second pick in the second round and got Justin Harper, who was projected as a first round in almost every mock draft. What do you think of the move they made to get him?
I like Justin Harper a lot. I feel like it was a good move, but Orlando, the way they approach the draft process always confuses me. They didn't work out a single player. In Chicago, they had very limited interviews. And then Justin Harper, he says that he found out that he was drafted by the Magic on TV, and they had never talked to him before. And you'd think they'd learn their lesson at this point after drafting Fran Vasquez without seeing him, after drafting Daniel Orton on a whim. I think that the Magic, he's a good pickup. I like him a lot. I think Justin Harper is going to be a guy who can contribute in this league, but I just don't understand why you don't put the time in to draft to work these guys out or to interview these guys some more. But, and then also they picked up a guy like DeAndre Liggins, who he could come in. He's a great defender, and I think he's good for a number 53 pick. We don't see many 53rd picks step in and really contribute, but he has the potential there. He's athletic, and I think there's a UK Orlando connection there because, last year you grabbed Orton, this year you grabbed Liggins, so clearly someone's telling them what these guys can do. But yeah, I just don't understand why you don't approach the process with more time. Every other team works out players, they interview players, and then, on draft day, these guys aren't surprised. But it's going to be interesting. I think Justin Harper's a good talent. So he could be a contributor, and he could be a guy that really makes this roster, and we're talking about him next season. But it's just the process that confuses me.
Indeed it does. That's Alex Kennedy of HoopsWorld.com and ESPN 1040. You're going to be on the air in 1040 in about, an hour? Less than an hour?
About a half hour, actually.
Half hour there. Jason, you got any messages you want Alex to pass along to your buddies at 1040?
Yeah, I'll talk to you at 12:10.
There you go.
Fair enough there. Alex Kennedy from HoopsWorld.com and ESPN 1040. Thanks for joining us, Alex.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
That's Alex Kennedy there. That's right, JC. You'll get to talk to him in about 40 minutes. No wonder you're kind of quiet. A couple hours there. Wow. All right, so we're going to take a break, and when we come back, the Rays keep winning on the field, which means a major network goes after you and says, get out of town! What? And then two managers says, keep me or I'm out of town. And one said, okay, there's the door. We'll talk about it next here on ESPN1080.com Insider Show here on ESPN 1080, The Team.
This is where great moments happen.
Going to be fielded by Lorenzo Neal at the 25. Pitches it back to Wycheck. He throws it across the field to Dyson.
He's got something.
30,
He's
40,
got something.
50.
He's got it.
40,
He's got it.
20, 10.
He's got it.
End zone. Touchdown Titans. There are no flags on the field. It's a miracle. Tennessee has pulled a miracle.
ESPN 1080, The Team.
Bad things sometimes happen to good people. Did something happen in your life and now you're just having a really hard time with your bills? You're trying your best, but you just can't get your debts under control. Call American Financial Solutions. We can help you get back on track and on with your life. This is not a loan, so homeownership is not required. We offer professional counseling and a customized plan to bring your debts back under control and help you get them paid off. Don't lose any more sleep over your credit card, medical, or collection debts. If you're ready to take control of your debts and your money, call American Financial Solutions right now. 800-990-0352. 800-990-0352. Call right now for a free debt analysis. 800-990-0352. 800-990-0352.
Mr. Jackson, we're calling to say you're late on your credit card bill. Can you please call us to schedule a payment and avoid future late fees?
If you're getting collection calls from your credit card companies and you want to put a stop to it, call the Debt Helpline today.
Mr. Jackson, we've been trying to reach you. If we don't hear from you soon, your account will go into collections.
We can help you stop the late fees and significantly reduce the amount of debt that you owe.
Mr. Jackson, this is our last warning call. The next call will be from our legal department.
If you have an income and you want to get out of debt faster than you ever will on your own, call right now for a free 15-minute debt analysis that I promise will change your life. 877-278-4177. 877-278-4177. Call 877-278-4177.
When you have a drug or alcohol problem, your whole world stops making sense. You can get help for yourself or a loved one and make sense of life again. Good morning. For information, treatment referral, and most importantly, help, call 1-800-662-HELP.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Hey, New York Yankee fans, now you can buy Yankee collectibles on the radio store. Go to ESPN1080.com. All Yankee memorabilia heavily discounted on the store. Go there today. Limited time offer.
I mean, the owner has come out, in fact, he said it earlier this month, that, and I quoted him in the story, we cannot sustain ourselves. This is a really good team that's fun to watch. The ownership has done a terrific job with the product and improving it and sort of polishing it up and doing what it can to get a competitive team on the field, and they've done that. And for a variety of reasons, they're not drawing any fans. In fact, they're last in the American League and second last in Major League Baseball. And so when you have that situation, you have a good product, a team that people like to watch, and no one goes to the games, and the ownership is saying, hey, hello, we can't keep this up. That's the story.
ESPN 1080 The Team here with ESPN1080.com Insider Show. Eric Lopez here, your UCF and Magic Insider. Andrew Melnick, your Magic and NBA Insider, the man with fire in his eyes right now after hearing Steve Berthuime just going off on the Rays attendance is, of course, none other than Jason Collette, your Rays and MLB Insider. And reminder, you can check all of our writings at ESPN1080.com. Andrew's had his mock draft last week. Did pretty well on it, right, Andrew?
Had I fixed it after all these trades went down, I might have done a little better.
You would have done a little better. And then, of course, Mikey, I have my article on Mikey Matuk, exclusive interview with him, and got quotes from his coaches about him. But let's get to that. Steve Berthuime wrote an article, Jason, on ESPN.com, about the Rays attendance, basically suggesting it's time for the Rays to go, that they're not drawing, they have a good team, and they just doesn't work in Tampa St. Pete. It caused a huge uproar in the Tampa St. Pete. He went on the radio stations, including ESPN 1040, which is where we got that clip from. Why don't you take us from there on that story?
Okay, my overall beef with it, there was no new facts in the story. Berthuime, well researched. I know some of the people he talked to for the story, who again are very well researched. So this wasn't a off the collar, reactionary piece. My problem with it is it comes from ESPN and Berthuime, who, if he's on Baseball Tonight, he can't resist making a crack about the Rays attendance when they're doing highlights. And again, the Rays, as we said earlier, the Rays are 14-6 in the last 20, and ESPN writes a story not about any of the players, but about attendance for the 1,358th time, and that's where it really hit a sore spot with the Bay Area. And my response to it's time to take the Rays out of this area. Where are you going to take them to? Nobody has a new stadium. People mentioned Charlotte. They have to build one. They have their own economical problems. You mentioned Vegas. I don't know if baseball wants to get near that problem. Their economy is just as bad as Florida's. Their housing market's worse. You're not going to go to Portland. Portland just lost their AAA team because they couldn't support it. So it's a matter, where are you going to take them? This is the best market. If you look at regionalizing the stadium, my suggestion is to get it in downtown Tampa. I have a whole proposal up on draysbay.com about it right now. Get it in central Tampa so it's a regional thing. If you combine this Tampa St. Pete TV market, which is 13th overall in the country, with the Orlando market, which is 19th overall in the country, that gives you one of the top 6 TV markets in all of the country. That's what needs to happen. Right now, the stadium is so far down. Orlando, it's an hour and a half if you're down at Disney to get out there. 2 hours if you're here where we're at the studio to get down there. People aren't going to the games. The Orlando Sentinel's not covering the team because the interest isn't there because it's too far away. Bring it back this way. Look at the interest here in the Bucks. People have no problem driving over to see a Bucks game. They don't have a problem driving over to see the Lightning play. They do have a problem driving over those bridges to go see the Rays play.
The location is the problem. That where the stadium is at, the fact there's not really anything to do around there except for Fergs. The fact you move it to downtown Tampa, you think that solves the attendance? How much would it improve it by?
I'd say to improve the attendance. Right now it's a good night if they get 20,000 fans. Everybody wants to celebrate it. That should be the floor in a downtown. You look at some examples of other markets that have done this. San Diego moved from Jack Murphy Stadium to Petco Park. They built Petco Park in the East Village of San Diego, which was an awful part of San Diego. People didn't want to go there. You go to East Village now, Petco Park's there. You have a bunch of residential units, a bunch of restaurants. It is a revitalized area. Same thing happened in Denver when they built Coors Field and Lodo area. They didn't have anything going on down there. They built Coors Field. Residential stuff pops up. Restaurants pop up. Businesses pop up. Big economic boom. Same thing in Detroit when they built Comerica. Things happen. You can build around projects and generate interest in the area. Right now, as you said, Fergs is a great place to go hang out for a Rays game, but that's pretty much your only option on site. You've got to go inside the stadium. And I mean, the stadium, the great thing, it's 72 degrees, which is warmer inside the studio this morning. But it's 72 degrees every time you're in Tropicana Field. That's a great thing. You don't have to deal with weather. The ballpark experience is 10 times better than it was under Vince Namoli's regime with it. So, it's just getting to the ballpark. And there's a lot of people, I'll compare it to this. There are 950,000 residents in Pinellas County, where Tropicana Field is. There are 950,000 residents in all of Milwaukee. And look at the attendance in Milwaukee this week when the Rays were up there, 35 to 43,000 every single night of that series. The Rays have had one game all season that's matched that number.
The interesting thing I find with this, because everybody always picks on the Rays attendance, or a friend of mine, he might be a friend of yours, Mark Tompkin, always tweets it.
Yep.
My question is, and I don't know, do you have the attendance numbers in front of you as far as the rankings? Because I believe...
Last or next to last this year.
This year, this upcoming year. Who is right barely ahead of the Rays in the American League? I believe it's Cleveland, right?
Cleveland's actually, they were, but now they've had a bunch of sellouts or May, so it's bumped them up. But the Royals are there.
The Royals
and whatnot.
are there. It's not like the Rays are the only team. We mentioned earlier on the show, the Astros are not drawing. This is not just a one-team issue here. There's a lot of teams that are not drawing. Yet it seems like everybody else is protected from it. There's no mention of it. You mentioned the Dodgers. That's a disaster. Wouldn't you? I would say the Dodgers situation is a far worse situation right now than you have with the Rays.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's somebody tweeted a picture yesterday, 15 minutes before first pitch in Dodger Stadium between the Dodgers and Angels, a regional game, and it looked worse than some of the Rays games from 2004. You look at attendance right now, the Marlins are dead last, Rays are next to last, then it's the Royals, the A's, and then Cleveland. Those are your bottom 5 teams in attendance. But again, the only one that everybody wants to talk about is the Rays, and I know it's because, they've 2 of the last 3 seasons in the postseason, so automatically you should just show up to games and whatnot. But a lot of these national stories seem to ignore the local factor of it. The local factor is the local unemployment rate is still higher than the national average in Tampa Bay. That's going to be a problem. And you couple that with location. This year you also couple that with the fact that Tampa Bay Lightning made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, and several times the Rays and Lightning were playing home games at the same time. You're drawing from your fan bases. And you look at it, the Yankees and Red Sox have made 1 trip each to Tropicana Field so far. And those are traditionally, just because of the way the area is, those are the games that bring the fans in. So there's a lot of factors. I just think the timing of the story is awful because, again, nothing new. There's a lot of good things going on with the Rays as a ball club right now, and ESPN's bringing up the attendance issue again.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Cardinals and the Reds. I mean, that's going to draw more fans, obviously, than normal. 2 very popular teams. And you hit on a couple of points that I liked. I mean, just look what happened at Church Street. It had fallen apart. Look what's happened to that in the last year since the new arena got built here. And the other thing, you mentioned coming over from Orlando. When you're talking about 7 o'clock starts, or I guess 6:40 starts when you're talking about
they got rid of those now. But
who wants to get on 275 at that time of day?
Yeah, that's part
it's terrible.
It really is a problem. I mean, you've got some options. I mean, right now you have 2 options. You can take 275 or you can take the Gandy across. So you've got 2 options to get across the bay. And then once you're across the bay, depends which way you go. It can be anywhere from 10 to another 30 minutes along that times. But if you leave here, if you're an Orlando person, you want to go to a 7:10 first pitch during the week, you better get on the road by 4 o'clock at the latest. Otherwise, you're not going to make it. And that's a lot. I mean, that's only from UCF. It's 123 miles from my driveway to their parking lot. That's it. That's 124 miles. But if it's taking you 190 minutes to get there, that speaks to the problem.
Exactly. That's my biggest problem with them. That'd be a lot more
I'm making
games.
that trip Wednesday afternoon, baby. 12:30 at the Trop. I'll be there. It's a nice trip. I point out. Here it is. Oakland, 19,000 and change. Mm-hmm. Kansas City, 19,000 and change. Cleveland, which has a very good ballpark. And has a very good, exciting team. 19,800. Toronto, 20,000 ball. It's not like the Rays are that far away from the rest of baseball. It's only a 1,000 here and there. And yet where's the story on those teams? Washington. Isn't that a bigger story? Baseball failing again in D.C. for what, the 1 millionth time they've had baseball there? Mm-hmm. I mean, I've been to Nats Park. It's a very nice ballpark. It's in downtown, and yet they're only drawing 22,000. It's not like the Rays. It's not like that big of a gap.
Right. I mean, the other thing is, when you look at things, I mentioned this to somebody earlier this week. Let's look at 1986. This is when the Red Sox were competing, and they actually won the American League East. In 1986, the Red Sox had 15 games below 20,000 fans before the July 4th. So July 4th to the start of the season, 15 games where an attendance was under 20,000. That is an 85-year-old franchise with a 3-generation fan base, and they could only draw 15, 16,000 a game, including the same night that Roger Clemens struck out 20 for the first time. There were only 13,000 fans at that game. So you're going to crack on an attendance that's still a first-generational fan base here in Tampa Bay. It's just one generation. You look at 4 of every 10 people are from somewhere else in that market, so it's a unique market. And same thing with South Florida. That's just the way it is. Everybody's from somewhere else. You're bringing other allegiances. It takes time to build that. Things are getting better, but at the same time, it's a unique market, and some factors are getting ignored. There's a big local factor that tends to get overlooked.
And I think the attendance is going to increase. I think maybe more casual fans, saw Carl Crawford leave, saw Carlos Pena leave, things like that. And they kind of played wait and see a little bit. And now that they see the Rays still have an excellent team, they're 9 games over 500. They're still a contender in the division. You're going to see the Yankees, the Red Sox come, the Reds, the Cardinals. More people are going to go to the games.
I mean, I say this a lot, and I know it doesn't sit well with people. But for the Rays fan base to mature, they have to be more supportive of the name in front of the jersey rather than the ones on the back. Carl Crawford leaves, Pena leaves, and all of a sudden the interest is down. Who cares? It's still your Tampa Bay Rays. Yep. If you want to be in it, you've got it. It's the team on the front. The names are always going to change on the back. It doesn't change on the front unless they do a uniform change again. But that's what you got to. There's been a few. But the Cardinals and Reds are coming to town this week. The Reds trained forever in the area in Plant City. Had a minor league team over in Tampa. The Cardinals traded Al Lang Field for a long time, so there's some interest there. I'm very curious to see what the attendance is going to be like this week with those two series.
And 2 points that people don't bring up when talking about Rays interest. Number one, television ratings are great. FSN and Sun Sports are fantastic. Last year, they were top 5 in Major League Baseball for local ratings.
Radio was top 8.
Ratings top 8. I haven't gotten this year's number, but they're doing very well, and that's going to help Sun Sports and FSN get a bigger deal. And number 2, by the way, Sunshine State. It's a pretty nice weather. There's a lot of things to do. You want to go to the beach? Want to go hang out? There's a lot of options to do. So there's a lot of different markets. So it is a tiring act. It's kind of annoying that all the ESPNs seem to be and people feel that's anti-Rays, and it's annoying.
I mean, where are the stories about James Shields? The guy's throwing complete games every time out, having an unbelievable season. No stories on James Shields. Let's jump on the attendance. Kyle Farnsworth having a great all-star-like closing season, but let's talk about the attendance. That's where it really irks fans.
B.J. Upton has 20 steals.
He's one of 3 guys with 10 home runs and 20 steals. He, Drew Stubbs, and Matt Kemp, and that kind of goes under the radar.
We're all just waiting for Kyle Farnsworth to tackle someone.
Absolutely.
I'd love to see that.
We're going to take our final break. When we come back, people leaving, one forced to go, fired right before going to the main event, and then 2 managers deciding quitting, and then we're going to bring in an old managers with world championships and been out of baseball for a little while. That and much more here on ESPN1080.com Insider Show here on ESPN 1080, The Team.
This is why we love sports.
Carter is the batter. Now the 2-2. Well hit down the left field line. Way back in. Joe Carter with a 3-run homer. The winners and still world champions, the Toronto Blue Jays.
Touch a ball, Joe. You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life. Okay, Blue Jays. Let's play baseball.
Orlando's ESPN 1080, The Team.
It's the end of the world as we know it.
So don't forget to bring your portable radio system along with you. This AM/FM shortwave radio system will keep you tuned into ESPN 1080. It's a highly sensitive and selective analog tuner with AM and FM and shortwave continuous coverage,
including 13 international broadcast bands.
Don't let the world in on you without this AM/FM shortwave radio.
Log on to ESPN1080.com
and click the radio store link for additional information and deals on this affordable shortwave radio system.
ESPN 1080 The Team now has the only local NASCAR show in Central Florida. Join racing enthusiast Stu Smith and veteran sports broadcaster Tracy Dent for Track Time every Friday from 6 to 7 p.m. Brought to you by Orlando Dodge Chrysler Jeep. The show features driver interviews, current rules discussions, the past week's racing happenings, and the coming weekend starting positions. Join Stu and Tracy for Track Time every Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. Sponsored by Orlando Dodge Chrysler Jeep.
Have you heard? Walgreens has generics for less than $1 a week. That's less than $1 a week for a 90-day supply on over 400 generic medications when you sign up for Walgreens Prescription Savings Club. Plus, save on 5,000 other brand name and generic medications. See how much you could save and get $50 in coupons free just for asking about the club.
Program is not insurance. Membership fee required. Membership may be canceled within 30 days of issue date. See store for complete terms and conditions.
Take out the rubbish, scrub down the floor. My aching joints don't jump no more.
Today, you don't have to take joint pain sitting down. New treatments and surgical procedures can restore joints and help get you back in the game. To find out how to make sore joints feel good again, visit orthoinfo.org. A message from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons.
The joints ain't sore no more. I still got it.
Business owners of Orlando looking to improve your search engine placement? End the search with MyOrlandoDirectory.com. Have a story to tell, a product to sell, or an event to promote? MyOrlandoDirectory.com's the place. This innovative new site comes complete with tools to track your company's marketing program to compete and stay ahead in today's fast-paced business world. Reach over 5,000 business owners through visual and virtual tours. Learn more at MyOrlandoDirectory.com. That's MyOrlandoDirectory.com.
I spoke to Mike Rizzo about it a couple times this spring and wanted to see if we could address it, and that was never the right time. And so today I asked Mike about when we go to Chicago after this ball game today, can we have a meeting and talk about, what it's going to take for me to continue on here. I'm loving it here and so forth. But Mike said, no, we're not going to have that conversation. And so I felt, if it's not even worthy of a conversation, then I'm obviously maybe not the person they want to move forward here with.
No, it's not worthy of a conversation, Jim Riggleman. That was Jim Riggleman, your former Washington Nationals manager, who decided to quit after a nice long winning streak, go one game over 500 for the Nats. This is ESPN1080.com Insider Show. Here on ESPN 1080 The Team, Eric Lopez, alongside Andrew Melnick, NBA and Magic Insider. He's going to be locked out next week. Not from the show, but just basketball talk, basically.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I'm not allowed to talk about it anymore because I'm not. I was never getting paid by the NBA, so I think I can keep it up. But yeah, there's not going to be a whole lot to talk
Jason
about.
Collette, of course, our Rays and MLB insider. They're not on a lockout. He could talk freely about baseball, like Jim Riggleman quitting, just saying, "Give me an extension, pick it up, or I'm out of here." And he's out of here. And Davey Johnson will be in now as the manager at your Nationals. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, good news for Winter Park High School grad Davey Johnson getting a job back there. But I don't like what Riggleman did at all. He was 69-93 last year with the Nationals. That's a bad record, and the Nationals still brought him back. Davey Johnson was out there on the open market last year too. They could have brought him back over the summer. They let Riggleman come back. To his credit, he had the Nationals playing 500 ball, but he also had some good talent. Worth's having a bad year, but you still have Jason Worth, Danny Espinosa's playing well. Drew Storen's been very good in the back end of the bullpen and whatnot, but this is a team sport. Now, I know what Riggleman's trying to do. He had a 11 of 12 game winning streak there with the Nationals, so he's trying to go in and force the hand of the GM. But this is a bad time to do it. You walk away from something like this. It's career suicide. There might be some general manager that's going to take another chance on him. Otherwise, he's going to have to work his way back up, start as a minor league coach somewhere or a bench coach and try to work his way back up. But this is a team sport, and for him to quit on a team that's playing this well is just not professional.
Plus, if you keep managing the whole year and they keep doing better, you make postseason, you got leverage not only for manage the Nationals next year, but anybody else, right?
Yeah, and he's got results out of these guys. This was a team that's finished dead last in the NL East in 2009, 2010. Right now, they're in third place in the NL East. They are playing a better brand of baseball. It's better to watch, so he's got the results. But just because you've had some short-term success doesn't give you the leverage to walk into the GM's office and say, "Hey, man, what's wrong with my deal?" If a player did this, if let's use James Shields with the Rays, he's got two team options in 2013 and 2014. As well as he's pitching right now, he could go to Andrew Friedman's office and say, "Hey, man, pick up my options. I'm worth it." And if he does it, okay, I'm just going to shut it down for the rest of this year. The reaction would be unbelievable, but people have been trying to defend what Riggleman's done, and there's no way to defend it.
No. he shouldn't even get another managing job. Why would you hire him again?
You don't know. Right now he's the Sarah Palin of baseball. He's going to start it and then quit it. So
let's go politics there.
Favorite part of the whole thing was him saying it wasn't a rash decision.
Not at all.
The other favorite part was him going to the bar to celebrate it afterwards.
All right. So that's the story there. Davey Johnson, though, I think it's an upgrade. I think he's fantastic. I love Davey Johnson. You think he'll do a good job there?
The guy's got results everywhere he's been. He's got 5 postseason titles. He's winning percentage is something like .550 for his career. He's landed in some pretty sweet situations. His career started with the Mets when they had Dwight Gooden, Darryl Strawberry, Sid Fernandez, Ron Darling, and whatnot. Cincinnati, Baltimore, Dodgers. He's got results. He turned around the Dodgers. The Dodgers were 8 games below 500 his first year. They were 10 games above 500 his last year, and then he was fired at the end of the season for going 86 and 76 in 2000. So he's been out of the league. For that regard, it's for 10 seasons. But this national team is there's some talent there, and they need to they've got some stuff down in the minor leagues. But this is a guy who's been there and done that, and I think that credibility is going to help ease the pain of this this bomb that was dropped this week on the roster.
LA would kill for 86 and 76.
They would. They would very well would. Quick
They'd kill for some money too.
All right, we got 3 quick things. We're almost out of time, so we got 3 quick things. First of all, Marlins, Jack McKeon back in the saddle after I predicted Edwin. I remember, Andrew, your witness. I said Edwin Rodriguez should be out by the end of the week. Well, he did me a favor. He said I'm out of there an hour later. So
yeah, I actually remember texting you about an hour later.
So
saying,
McKeon is in.
Guess we didn't need a week.
He'll manage the rest of the year, but they'll have a new manager next year. I don't think it'll make a big difference. They might win. They'll play a little better, but it's not going to matter. We agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's McKeon. The Marlins were underachieving. When you looked, I was at 2 of the 3 games against the Rays. Yeah. They looked lifeless. I mean, there was just making silly errors. They looked like a team that was ready to play for somebody else. And so, yeah, that's the way it works out. But I think McKeon will get results. He always does, and he doesn't put up with crap.
All right, let's go to our producer, Brian Winiger, our MMA guy, because you've got some big news. Let's not hear from Dana, Brian. We're short on time. I want your thoughts. Big change in the pay-per-view tonight. Dana White has fired a main eventer for tonight's fight. Explain to me. What the heck?
Main event. UFC's first trip to the great city of Pittsburgh is without their main event. Former middleweight contender Nate Marquardt is out of this card and coincidentally out of the UFC. He failed a medical test, quote unquote. There's a lot of speculation out there because he did test positive for PhDs back in 2005, but he was making the cut down for the main event to welterweight. He's a big guy. I mean, he can fight at light heavyweight, 205, and he's trying to cut down to 170, so maybe he was doing something a little extra on the side to help ease that. But yeah, no main event. The new main event now is Czech Congo against Pat Barry.
And Story's got to fight a local kid, Brenneman.
And Story's fighting Charlie
Which
Brenneman.
I think it is not fair to him. He's got to fight someone now in the last out of the blue here. How do you prepare for that?
It's kind of a lose-lose for Rick Story, because I mean, if he beats Brenneman, he doesn't really move up in that welterweight division, but Brenneman, man, this is the chance of a lifetime.
Give me your picks on those 2 fights tonight.
The Pat Barry, Czech Congo. I'm going with Pat Barry. I love his stand-up, former kickboxer, and I think Congo's on his way out. And then Rick Story, I'm obviously going to take him against Brennan. One quickly though, fight. 2 former contenders at their weight division, Tyson Griffin and Manny Gambirian, go out on the prelim card. I think that might be fight of the night.
That's your fight of the night? Yes. Your sleeping pick there. I'm picking Story to go down in the upset, by the way.
Really? By what?
Just TKO, yeah.
Just
unpredictable. Just has no idea who he's fighting with.
Sure.
How do you prepare?
Sure.
That's Brian Winiger, MMA expert. Sorry to cut you off, Andrew. I know you usually introduce him, but we're short on time, so we had to kind of cut it off. Quick word. Me and Andrew Melnick will be on all week, ladies and gentlemen, on Tuck and O'Neill, 3 to 6, here on ESPN 1080, so check that out.
Tuck and Melnick and Lopez, you mean?
That's right, baby. Jerry's on vacation. Jason will join us some point during the week. We'll have a big reunion with Mike Tuck. It'll be great. We'll bash his Dodgers. It'll be fun. All right. Less than a minute, we're going to make our picks. National Championship, college baseball, Florida, South Carolina. What it is? Quick.
Gamecocks.
Gamecocks.
Florida. We're out of here, everybody. We'll see you next week here on ESPN 1080 The Team. This has been ESPN1080.com Insider Show.